of what kind of fuel source that is. So we're also accepted at alternative fuel sites. But beyond fuel, we've been able to take the same competency into the travel industry. And so we've been able to take that same competency into the employee benefits categories with payroll cards that we offer. And then beyond that, we're just starting to look at healthcare. So for us, it's a little bit less about the commodity and more about the complexity of the payment system. If you think of healthcare, it's pretty complex. Right? It's a big market, but pretty complex and changing pretty rapidly right now. So it's a good time for us to be entering. So it's a very, very small part of our business right now, but it's something that we think could potentially be a pretty big part of our growth story. We'd have to do a lot of research to figure that out, but we think that that could be true. Still blinded by the light. So this morning my husband picked out my shoes. He was a little bit worried I'd trip coming up on the stage. Yeah, I think you'd think that was funny.
Hi, Melissa, and thank you so much for being here this morning. My name is Elaine Salikas. I'm with the Institute for Civic Leadership, and I hear what you say about the need for skills and education, and was curious to know, given the leadership and innovation of WEX, how would you assess or comment on the climate here in Maine relative to entrepreneurship, innovation, and creativity?
That's a good question. We actually have a man on our board of directors, and we're actually having our board meetings the next couple of days, who teaches entrepreneurialism at Harvard. He's been one of those serial entrepreneurs. My husband is an entrepreneur starting his own business here in Maine. And so I think that Maine actually, in many ways, and this is a personal opinion, not a WEX opinion, but I think in many ways, Maine actually is well suited from a small business perspective because we have the kind of grit that it takes, and we have people that are very independent in their thinking, just as a general rule here. And so small business has actually been, I think, one of the benefits of being in the state of Maine. And if I compare that to other regions that I travel in, I would say equal or greater. I think that people here still struggle with the same things that you struggle anywhere when you're starting a business. They're thinking about access to talent, labor costs, taxes. They're thinking about their ability to actually recruit and retain talent. And so that's going to be important regardless of what region you're in. But I think of that as a positive. Innovation, for us, innovation can be driven two different ways. I meet lots of people that are innovative from a technology perspective, and that's a little bit more of a discipline, and you see that certainly more in specific regions of the country where people are going to, with their big school systems. But there's also innovation with just the idea that I'm going to take something and I'm going to go test it, and I'm going to see if I succeed or if I fail. And I think in that respect of innovation, Maine does particularly well.
Hello, my name is Sean Johnny from Westbrook High School, and I was wondering, as a high school student, what sort of steps I need to take to join a business like WEX?
Yeah. So if you're coming to work at WEX, most of us are going to have college education, so I'd say start with that. Go to college. It's not a paid announcement by any adult in the room, but yes. And I think when you go to college, that what we're looking for typically are people that have skills that fit our needs. And so, we have a high degree of need with people that have technical skills, people that have sales experience, people that have some type of service experience or excellence. And a lot of the people will start in the service side of the company, and then they can move into sales roles. But it really depends on what you're interested in doing. But I think you start with making sure that you get a good education, and to the extent that you can, that you're doing internships when you're in school. and you're actually getting real experience so that when you get out of school, you have something more tangible to offer.
Thank you.
But good luck to you. Come see us in a few years.
Good morning, Ron Cantor, Southern Maine Community College. Thank you for encouraging people to go to college, for one. But my question's not about education, it's about healthcare. I'm intrigued by what you've said already, and I'd like to hear more. If you're in business to help businesses simplify their complicated payment systems,
Yes.
what a market healthcare is, because it's so badly needed. My question is, I think most of your other businesses, I was struck by your statement that all over the world, whatever culture, they want efficiency. In the healthcare system, I'm not so sure that's always true. It is among some of the players, but not among others. It's such a convoluted system, I certainly don't understand it. And I'm not sure, although the incentives are always there to save money, because of the way the payment structures work, etc., those incentives don't have a chance to work often. And my real question, this is not a political statement at all, but I'm just wondering, are you going to be able to do any good? Are the incentives there for healthcare organizations to work with you? And maybe, can we see a brighter future?
Yeah, I think in the case of any business that we're entering, what we're looking for is what's the problem. Healthcare, as you said, there's a lot of problems in the healthcare payment industry. Part of what when we look at that market, the problem with insurance is insurers are looking for efficiency. So on that side of the equation, the people that are making the payments are interested in that. On the provider side, some of their bigger problems are collecting money from consumers and just the overall complexity of trying to understand how much money they should be getting paid. And so we do think that we can make a play in between those two things, but we have to be able to provide a benefit to the people that are providing the services and at the same time provide a benefit to the insurers in order to be in the middle of that. And that's what we've been really working on.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you. Good morning, Melissa. My name is Bert Russell with Sprague Energy.
Good morning.
Good morning. And WEX clearly has a strong reputation in terms of both business leadership as well as leadership in the community, which I think is, admirable and benefits all of us, in this room as well as the larger community. And the question is, I guess that it seems that in today's, world, there are an awful lot of complex issues that face communities in terms of that requires some business leadership. And I know in South Portland there's a proposed waterfront protection ordinance that would, devastatingly impact businesses, which would increase fuel prices potentially, which is one of the goals that that clearly WEX has and our company has in terms of reducing the cost of fuel. But I wonder what advice can you offer? I guess it seems to me that as the word, as you try to get the word out, there are a lot of businesses that would clearly, privately say they're for or against something, but to get them to publicly speak out against something like that is more difficult. So I guess the two questions are, what advice do you have for businesses in terms of navigating the public opinion challenges of today's community, as well as what advice you have for a company like ours that has found itself on the defensive of something that really could be devastating to the larger community and trying to reach out and get people engaged and to speak out on things that would have a devastating impact on the business and the local community. Thank you very much.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for the comments. The first part of your question, one of the things that we've done, and I'd say this has kind of happened over time for us, we really weren't particularly involved for years and years in what's happening in the political environment. And what we found over time is first we had to start getting involved in what's happening in Augusta. And that was more because there would be potentially policy passed that would sound great, but could have an impact to our business. And so we actually became much more educated, and we have a person that's dedicated towards following what's happening with local policy to make sure that if we need to get involved that we are, and developing relationships. I think that's the other thing that we learned, is to develop the relationships with the representatives so that when we did have a concern or problem, it wouldn't be the only time that we're making a phone call. And so we've developed those relationships more over time. And then on more of a national level, that's been true as well. There were potential regulations years ago that were going to eliminate the type of bank that we own, and which had a pretty big impact on our business. And so at that point in time, we did the same thing at a national level. We started making trips and spending time with representatives so that when there were issues, we had a relationship to fall back on. And so we've just become much more proactive in nature. So I'd say that's kind of the first one, is to the extent that you can and you have the resources to develop those relationships in advance and to pay attention to what's happening with policy. And then on the more broad discussion about business and how you unite, I think that this is an excellent place to have that discussion, right? This is a part of what the chamber should be doing and is doing in the community, but to pull together those pieces. We do that also offline quite a lot. I know that Mike has done that, working with local business leaders. To the extent that there's something that we feel strongly about, then we will unite a group of people to have that conversation, which may be something for you. But there is actually one of the benefits of operating in the greater Portland area is it's a relatively small community. And so to the extent that you have a question or concern, there's a handful of people that you can pick up the phone and call, and it actually is fairly impactful when you unite together. So, let's see. Thank you. Thank you.
Great job.
Oh, thanks.
Careful going down those stairs.
Yeah.
Thank you, Melissa, and thanks for your tremendous partnership with the Greater Portland region and all you do for economic development. WEX is a tremendous corporate citizen here in the Greater Portland region. In appreciation of Melissa speaking today, we'll be making a donation in your honor to the Center for Grieving Children.
Thank you.
Some final announcements as we wrap up. You can stay up to date on everything related to the Chamber by connecting via Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Instagram is coming, I'm sure. Stay tuned to the Chamber's YouTube page for videos of this morning's Eggs and Issues, and as always, the photos taken here will be available for viewing on Facebook and Flickr. Also, as we talked about last month, this is not your father's annual Leadership Awards dinner next month, or coming up on the 24th. The Chamber's 159th Annual Leadership Awards is September 24th at the State Theater, celebrating our award recipients with an art show by Mecca, jazz by USM, and standard issue, and food by 4 up-and-coming area chefs. It's going to be a great time. If you haven't RSVP'd already, I encourage you to do that. Thank you for joining us this morning. We hope to see you again on October 4th with Suzanne McCormick, President and CEO of the United Way of Greater Portland, as our speaker. Thanks very much. Have a great day.